Hello and welcome to episode 79 of the Tyre Recycling Podcast as we report live from Melbourne, Australia as part of the Tyre and Conveyor Belt Recycling Summit, organised by Tyre Stewardship Australia and Tyrewise. Now in today's episode we are interviewing a returning interviewee in the form of Jon Visaisouk, the CEO of Tyromer. Now, for those not familiar with Tyromer, Tyromer is a company that uses its proprietary devulcanizing process to treat crumb rubber granules and turn them into sheets of devulcanized rubber that can then be reintroduced into new batches of rubber at a relatively high level. Now, at the moment, Tyromer does have an operation in the Netherlands and is a supplier to Continental and Apollo Tyres. So, without any further ado, let's get into that interview with Jon Visaisouk from Tyromer. Here we are for episode 79 of the Tyre Recycling Podcast with Jon Visaisouk, the CEO of Tyromer. Now, Tyromer are a company that uses its proprietary devulcanizing process to treat crumb rubber granules and turn them into sheets of devulcanized rubber that can be reintroduced into new batches of rubber. And Jon has travelled from Canada to attend the round-trip Tyre and Conveyor Belt Recycling Summit. Thank you for joining us today, Jon. Firstly, what are you looking forward to for the round-trip Tyre and Conveyor Belt Summit? And, do you have any specific objectives for the show?
Oh, thanks, Richard, for inviting us and for having here. I think we're excited to speak with a variety of the stakeholders that are coming together for this event. So I think TSA has done a good job of bringing together, again, the recyclers, some of the people on the regulatory side, the government side, and to really bring everybody together for these conversations. So, I think that I'm looking for a little bit more specific action in regards to this trip. So maybe we can leave here with a few actionable items. But again, I think it's really great to have this discussion going, and I'd like to take the next step past a discussion. Okay, we have a discussion going. We agreed there's a general plan or a general idea. Now, how do we take the first couple of steps to put that plan in motion? So I'd like to see a couple of tangible things happen off the back of the conferences here.
Yeah, that's always, a key part of these events. Can these events, deliver some results and some actionable items off the back of it? But as you said, there's a lot of, good speakers here and some important people here. So it's encouraging. So talking about Tyromer, obviously from Tyromer Recycling, we've saddened to hear of the passing of Sam. We've obviously worked together quite a long time at our businesses, so we're saddened to hear that news. But obviously, there's been a bit of a transitional period for the business. Yourself and that is now the CEO. Franz is also the CEO for Tyromer in Europe. So how has that transition been for yourself and for Franz?
Yeah, thanks. So obviously we're all very, very sad about Sam's passing, and it was pretty sudden. So that's never a great situation. But I think Sam really laid out a pathway and a vision that the rest of our team really was able to grab onto. And, I came into Tyromer, I joined about late 2017. And, this was never really my dream. I'm not a rubber guy. I'm not a scientist by any means. But after seeing the potential and following, the pathway that Sam let out, and again, the vision that he shared with us, I think not just me, but our whole team truly believes in this now, and we want to do everything that we can to push forward. And so in terms of the transition, I think that we're across the board kind of making a transition in the sense that I'm kind of taking over Sam's role, or at least for now in this space. Kostas Joganakis, the professor who invented the technology, like Ankita here, graduated right underneath Kostas's guidance, and she's kind of taking over as our technical and quality lead, actually. And then, absolutely, as you mentioned, Mr. Franz Giesen in Europe is the new CEO there, and he's starting to settle in quite well. So I think across the board, we're kind of looking at the younger generation pushing forward a little bit more. And we're all incredibly excited to see what we can do in the next few years, because we see a lot of, I guess I'd call it blue ocean to an extent. There's a lot of untapped potential out there for us.
Definitely. Obviously, you were touching there on Franz and the business in Europe. I remember we talked to yourself a few years ago on our podcast, just as you were opening that plant in Arnhem for your European business. Could you give us an update on how that business is going?
Yeah, so I think that the Europe business is has been pretty good. So I'll be completely honest that manufacturing in Netherlands and in Europe can be a little more expensive than other places, but they've done well. This is the first year that we've run multiple shifts the whole year since the beginning of the year, so that's great. And when we have people, Continental is one of the bigger customers over there, and so they're finally in the point of kind of rolling this out to more and more facilities. So at the end of last year, we were, supplying to a few facilities, and now we've gotten the material out to quite a number more. And I'd say the same for a few other customers as well. So they're doing pretty well there. They're also starting to process some non-tire materials like EPDM a little more regularly. So I see the Europe facility is a great showcase for us in what we're doing, and I think the team there is very capable. And yeah, I think they're going to be quite busy going forward.
Well, that's good news. Always good news to be busy, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And what sort of uptake have you had then on your devulcanized rubber from tire manufacturers or other uses of rubber? I know you've mentioned briefly there Continental, and obviously plan to talk about that a bit later too.
Yeah, so right now I think the Europe facility will put out a few thousand tons or so this year. And then when we look at our in terms of the extruder size, the Tyromer India facility is actually the one producing the most right now, as they have our largest size of extruder. So they're actually producing about 500 tons per month right now. Of the devulcanized rubber there. So between the facilities, we're starting to creep up there in volume. And again, I think that the most difficult part of what we do is to actually get the material in, qualified, approved, gone through testing. So now, the last 3 to 5 years, not even the last 5 to 8 years, we've been doing a lot of this testing and development. And now finally, companies are feeling more confident with the material. The industry in general has been more confident about devulcanized material as it becomes a bigger tool for rubber manufacturers to exploit.
Absolutely. And yeah, so thinking about those, about partnerships now, could you tell us about how you're finding partners around the world and if you've managed to license your technology to other parts of the world?
But for us, for partners, we look at we look at who is the right partner for us. So somebody who's maybe potentially already in the recycling space, or in terms of Australia, someone who's already involved in the mining industry. And so we see there's actually quite a lot of synergy and potential within the mining industry. And that's something that I think, again, we're focusing here on this trip to Australia here. But I could say the same for, North America and South America, wherever they're doing mining, really. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm excited to talk about the tires and the products that we have here and how we can actually make a difference with them.
You must see a big opportunity then with mining, especially here in Australia.
Yeah, and so with what we have here in Australia, I think we have an untapped resource here that's we can really put a high value on. And so processing this material through our devulcanization process, we can, again, help use this material back into new tires, new conveyor belts, and things like that. So really trying to focus on a circular economy. And it's been a slow go. This has taken a number of years to get through and to do a lot of testing and to, again, kind of gain the confidence of the large manufacturers. But I think, again, everybody is starting to come to the table a little bit more now. And so in terms of just going back to that point of partners, we see a lot of different types of these days. Like there's the operational partners that we want to have, but then there's all sorts of, other people in the industry, government agencies, independent people that we try to really engage as much as we can these days. And really make sure that we understand the entire environment that's out there.
Absolutely. And obviously you brought it back to partnerships there. We mentioned briefly Continental. You've also got a partnership with Apollo Tyres. Could you talk a little bit about how those partnerships are progressing?
Yeah, I think so. With Continental, they are one of our very first off takers, and they really helped guide us through the process. It was Continental that really helped us learn about what a true quality management system is and how do we create the same consistent material that's high quality, not just today or tomorrow, but the next year and the year after. How do we make it consistent every day? And so Continental was really a very important piece to kind of mentoring our team. And, the Continental team worked very closely with Ankita, our technical and quality lead here. And so I think we learned quite a lot about how to fit into the tire industry through them. And so with Apollo, they've also been able to, I have to give credit to our Tyromer India team, who's done a great job working closely with them, engaging with Apollo, meeting with them locally. And we actually have Apollo also has a facility in Europe and Hungary that we've been supplying to. So I think that if we can continue up to show that, basically we're at the point now we need to show a little bit more global footprint. So a little bit of a larger infrastructure, a larger footprint, a few more facilities out there to help these manufacturers get material wherever they need it. So I think that we've learned a lot from both of those organizations. Apollo also helped a lot in getting our Tyromer India facility up and running. So I do want to give them a lot of credit and acknowledgement for that because we absolutely appreciated it. And I think that type of relationship is something that we would like to establish with more tire manufacturers, where we work a little more closely together. We have a little bit more engagement. It's a little bit more work, but at the end of the day, both parties feel more comfortable with each other, and we find a solution that works for the industry.
Absolutely. Do you have any discussions ongoing with other manufacturers at the moment?
There's a lot of discussions ongoing, and unfortunately, a lot of it's covered under NDA. But I would say we're probably talking with at least half of the top 20 or 30 global rubber companies to a certain extent. A lot of people are doing testing. Some people are customers. Some people are still doing the development road trials. But I would expect that in the next, again, in the next few years, hopefully we'll have a few more pretty high profile customers coming on board as we prove that we're able to supply them to their standard.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds really positive. And also it sounds like you've learned a lot from those other partnerships, like with Continental and with Apollo. You mentioned there about how Apollo have really helped you really develop the Tyromer India business. So Jon, talk to us a bit more about Tyromer India, reclaim rubber, devulcanized rubber, and everything related to your business in India.
Yeah, thanks. So we see that reclaim rubber is it's a traditional material that's been around for decades. So the manufacturers have gotten used to using this material. They've done a lot of testing in products. They've been using it, so they understand it very well. But they're also starting to see the potential of devulcanized rubber in the sense that we believe it's a little bit more of a functional material, so it'll mix a little bit better. So in our understanding, hypothetically, you'd be able to load more devulcanized rubber into a compound than you could reclaim rubber. And so we're really starting to see that kind of transition and shift from the manufacturers. And so as we go forward, again, I think the standard reclaims may start to reduce a little bit in production, and the extruder reclaim, as some people call it, or the devulcanization, will most likely play a larger role. I can say that this year was actually the first year that I saw market research reports and like industry reports on the devulcanization market, the materials for devulcanization. Whereas in the past years, I don't think those were even on the radar. So it's nice to see that the industry in general is starting to pick up on the devulcanized rubber and seeing it again as a tool that hasn't yet been used to its maximum.
Absolutely. And my final question is, do you have any additional plans or news that you'd like to share with us here today?
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest things here, and again in relation to what we're doing here in Australia, is really in relation to there's two things. So there's the mining tires and there's the conveyor belts, and I'm going to separate those a little bit. So for the mining tires, we've actually done a lot of development over the past couple of years. Again, this has been led by Ankita. She's really gone through a lot of R&D. We've done a lot of testing on this. So we've actually branded a new product. So to date, all of Tyromer's process and progress has mainly been based on TDP-B, our product that comes from truck treads. And this product that comes from mining tires, now we've actually branded it our TDP-A. So this is a really high quality material. We're getting ready to share it with the world, and we're I mean, I feel quite positive that manufacturers will also see it quite positively. It's got a lot higher physical properties than our standard material even. So we're quite interested in these mining tires and excited to get this out to a number of manufacturers. And on the conveyor belt side, I would also say the last couple of years we've seen a few more conveyor belt projects. We're looking at, we've seen that they've been difficult to recycle in the past, and we're starting to develop some custom solutions for conveyor belts, depending on the type. So I'd say that going forward here, we have a great product in mining tires. We're going to share this with. We'll try to share this with the world as soon as we can, and we're starting to offer some custom solutions for recycling of conveyor belts and other non-tire materials as well. But for Australia, again, I'd focus on the
mining
tires and the conveyor belts.
Yeah. You must see then some opportunities also to have discussions on the conveyor belt side here as well. I know you've spoken here extensively about the mining tires, but there must be some good opportunities to speak about conveyor belts too.
Absolutely, and I've got a couple of mentions in my presentations here. Just last year this time, we actually had a project in collaboration with Tech Resources, which is a Canadian mining company, and Fenner Dunlop, which is one of the big conveyor producers. So we actually took some of the mining tires from Canada. We devulcanized them through our process. We sent that material to Fenner Dunlop, and Fenner Dunlop was actually able to make a production belt that's over a kilometer long. It's already in use for a couple of years. It's installed in Western Canada at a coal mine. And so we've proven that, hey, we can take old tires and turn them into new conveyors. And that was honestly, again, that was a little bit before we'd optimized our process even more. So that gives us a lot of hope that, definitely there's options. There's great options. I mean, we're working, we try to collaborate with a lot of the people out there. So I definitely see that the conveyor belt is something that will be more realistic to recycle for people like us going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time here, Jon. That was really interesting. I think we've had a good update from Tyromer and where you stand and your hopes for this event. And we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Tyre Recycling Podcast. So that brings an end to episode 79 of the Tyre Recycling Podcast. A big thank you to Jon Visaisouk from Tyromer for participating in this latest episode and for being candid with his answers. We wish Jon all the best at the conference this week. Now, episode 79 may be over with, but episode 80 is coming hot on its heels, and it has a big hitter in the form of Paul Kenyon, the BBC journalist who recently broke the tyre scandal for the BBC File on 4 Investigates programme. So please keep your eyes peeled on our social feeds for the launch of episode 80. Until then, goodbye.